Am I wrong if I reject my sister's wedding invitation to the girl she cheated on her fiance/baby daddy with and barely knows? I, 30 female, and my sister, 33 female, never grew close as I'd like to. She basically did her own thing and never took interest in me. I guess the cliche big sister, little sister drama. Let's just say if we weren't sisters, we wouldn't be friends. Anyway, my sister started a new job and met this girl who she instantly clicked with. She began to have affairs with her when she was engaged to her fiancé at the time. I know they were having trouble in their relationships before the affair started, as she shared with me months before. I'm nobody to judge and she's a big girl. She can make her own choices. She decided to end things with her fiancé/baby daddy, and not even 2 days later, she brought the girl to meet her 2 kids. Again, I'm nobody to judge, I just didn't think that was a good idea so soon. May 5th, my husband got the worst call of his life that his father offed himself in his garage. He was battling cancer and we're all assuming the pain was just too much for him. There was no note. My husband's mom was the one that found him and called her daughter to call 911. We live in California and our family is back in Texas, and we drove down there the following day. We planned to stay at my mom's house, which my sister currently resides at. We didn't arrive until 1 a.m., but we first stopped in front of my husband's parents' home. He stepped out, and by the side of the house, you can see his favorite chair, the chair he sat on to smoke his cigarettes every day and relax, now covered in leftover blood. We didn't stay long as it was late and drove to the next exit where my sister lives. Dawn came up, and my husband immediately went to see his mom. I stayed behind with our kids to give them space and time to try to understand what just happened. Our first day there, Sunday, we planned to take our kids to a pizza place and have them spend time with each other. She insisted in bringing her new lover with us, but to be honest, I just wanted to spend time with my big sister. I was in no position to meet anyone new. Thankfully, the plans fell through. Later that evening, my sister asked if I can take my nephew to and from school, and I agreed. I didn't mind because I love my nephew and will do anything for him. It's now Wednesday and my sister hasn't spoken with me for more than an hour. Since we got there, she's either been on the phone with her new girlfriend or in her room with her. I get that having a new lover is exciting and all you want to do is be with that person. There was little conversation between her and my kids as well, which bothered me the most. My niece being almost 2 years old to just stay in her room and watch her baby shows eating veggie chips. It broke my heart that my sister was not giving her the same amount of attention she was giving to her new girlfriend. Her girlfriend messaged me and asked me if I'd like to get a drink so I can get to know her a little better, and I respectfully declined. It wasn't time for that. I don't know how she thought it was. I also shared that I'd rather have a conversation with my sister because we haven't had any time to talk about anything. So she had the idea and brought over wine and munches with the intention of my sister and I bonding, which was nice. Unfortunately, my sister was outside the entire time talking with her and later came in and we actually spoke for about 30 minutes about how much she was in love with her despite it moving so fast. We had to go back home because my oldest had to do the state test. My husband and I discussed how we both noticed my nephew kept bringing up my sister's ex-fiancé. He let us both know a few times that his mom and David were no longer together because he cheated on her, which was a lie, but I'm nobody to tell him the truth. My daughter later told me that she felt bad for him because he was hoping David will come back. Testing week ended and we were on our way back to Texas for my father-in-law's services. I texted my sister and I wanted to talk about the situation she was in and how concerned I was for my nephew. She insisted she wasn't in a situation and she didn't have the time at the moment to discuss anything about my nephew. Second week, same thing. My sister was not there for me nor my kids. Never offered any help. Nothing. My father-in-law was late to rest and I finally let my sister know how I felt. Her response was because it was too traumatic for her. I never in my life viewed her so low as I did in that moment. I explained to her I don't know how that can be if she was laughing and in cloud nine the entire time I was there. She never met him, most likely doesn't even know his name, and is not the grandpa of her own kids. I know hearing about suicide is heartbreaking enough, but I don't know how it can be so traumatic for her. A week later, David called me and was upset with my sister and let me know he was going to call the police on her because she just dropped my niece at his mom's front door and flicked him off as she walked away, with the daycare bill on her car seat. I instantly called my mom to get my sister's side of the story because who knows the truth. She admitted she did that so he can pay the bill. I was livid and blew up and called her out for being ugly towards her daughter. She hinted she was going to out my biggest secret right then and there. I texted her as we were going back and forth and reminded her I have secrets as well and how dare she threaten me. I would never use her secret against her, even if we stopped talking for the rest of our lives. That was the last time we spoke. She never called me for my birthday but sent me a save the date invitation for her wedding next year. I don't know how I can go with everything that happened. Am I being petty? She's my kid's aunt and I don't want to be the one to keep them away from seeing their cousins, but I don't respect her. So will I be the asshole if I reject her wedding invitation, or how should I handle this? I understand why you don't want to go to her wedding. You don't have a good relationship with her. You don't really support how she's going about this relationship and how she's treating her kids in the meantime. So when you go to someone's wedding, that means I support you. I'm here for you. But at the same time, I see that your kids are close to her kids and those are your nephews and nieces and you hopefully plan to want a relationship with them in the future. I feel like I feel if that was me, because I'm so close to my nephews and nieces and I see that bond that the cousins have, I would go just for the sake of going and being there for them because I love them so much. But I don't think it's wrong of you to not go. I don't think there's a wrong answer here. It is going to cause some sort of like disconnect because your kids are going to be like, Mom, why can't we go? I want to see my cousins. And I think you as an aunt too, like you want to make sure your nephews and nieces are doing okay, and especially how after the wedding how things are going to be. I don't think you're being the asshole at all. Like I can't imagine if, because here's the thing, I know the sisters will be sisters, like the big sister, little sister. I'm the little sister in this dynamic, right? I think you are too. Yeah, you're me and my sister were never close growing up at all. She bullied me, she was mean to me. We have a 5-year age gap. It was never super close. We got close when we got older, when I was like 15 and she was 20, and she started bringing me around college and all that stuff. And now I'm 28, she's 33, and we're inseparable. We talk to each other every single day. We're very close. You know, she's my rock, I'm her rock. I'm very thankful for that relationship. I'm very thankful that I do have a sister in this world that I can rely on 1000% with. You don't have that closeness with her. So I understand, like, you expect when something like that happened to you, right? Like, you're all the way in Texas, you're from California, your father-in-law passed away in such a traumatic way. I know my sister would be there for me in a heartbeat. Hey, are you okay? Like, go, let me watch your kids. Go be with your husband during this time. Just drop your kids off to me. You know, so I think you kind of expected that, or my sister just to check in on me, like, hey, are you okay? Like, how can I be here for you? What do you need? Let me just be in your presence, right? You expect your kin, your family, your close people to be there for you in that time. So when she didn't do that and didn't care for it, and to see her neglecting you and her kids just because of a new relationship, I think that really does rub you the wrong way. And I don't blame you for that. But I see both sides. If you don't go, I understand why. If you do go, I understand why. I don't think there's a wrong answer here. But if it were me, the thing is, it's so hard to put myself in your shoes because there's so much. Oh, one thing I want to touch on, the secret thing. I don't care what happens. If I tell you something in confidence and you throw it back at me, that is one sure of a hell way for me to never want to talk to you again in my life. And the fact that she even threatened it, I get why you don't want to go. I get that. I just wanted to touch on it so make sure you didn't know, like, I didn't just look over it, but that sucks. But I don't know how the depth of your relationship, but if I would really only go just to check on my nephews and nieces and maybe just to save face and be there for you, have a happy life, happy wedding, you know, I would go, but I wouldn't be upset if you didn't. Am I wrong for breaking my deathbed promise to my wife to take care of her Down syndrome daughter? I, 55 male, just lost my wife, 56 female, to cancer. My late wife's entire life was about her 30-year-old daughter who suffers from Down syndrome and has never and will never have the ability to live independently, nor will she ever have the ability to ever exercise any real amount of emotional impulse control. And before you all start on the evil stepdad who doesn't care to understand line of thinking, I want to add that I have been in her life since she was 5 and spent years fearing the day where she was physically developed to the point where punches, scratches, and throwing things were a real threat. Once that happened, all of my wife's friends stopped visiting our house. One of them even said that her uncle deals with vicious dogs for a living and she feels safe around his workplace than at our house. I many times have ended up needing to go to the doctors for the crime of sitting in the same room as my stepdaughter and having her attempt to pound my head, throw a heavy object at me, or trying to choke me after I had fallen asleep. That's scary. My late wife was the only one who could reliably calm her down. When we started using caregivers for my stepdaughter after my wife was diagnosed, they would be asking me whether I could enlighten them on a better way to explain things to my stepdaughter when she was going ballistic. When even they, who were used to explaining things to people who just didn't get things, were still struggling and asking for insight. When my late wife was diagnosed, the first word out of her mouth was my stepdaughter's name. She cried every day for what was to become of her. In her desperation, she tried to press the doctor for chemotherapy when it no longer made sense. Turned to alternative medicine despite it making her feel worse, saying she would have stopped all treatment if she was only leaving behind an employable, functioning 30-year-old. On her deathbed, she made me promise to not let her fall into the hands of the state care facility. I promised her because I didn't have the heart not to. But now, after my grief fog has cleared 2 months later, my stepdaughter remains the same. She doesn't understand that her mom is dead, only that she's gone and angry at me for it, saying she'll be good, so bring her back. Caregivers are expensive. I don't make much. I didn't resent any medical expense when it was my wife, but I admit that I resent my stepdaughter. My own grown kids won't visit with her around. If I hadn't made the deathbed promise, the decision would have been easy. And finally, I made the decision that I needed to put her in a state-run facility, as even with my wife leaving me everything, I couldn't afford anything better. Now, families are calling me the evil stepdad and a mother's worst nightmare. Am I the asshole? That's my first time hearing of someone with Down syndrome being so violent. That's like really concerning because usually they're very, very chill, but case by case is really different. I don't think you're the asshole for getting her the care that she needs, which you do not have the current capacity to provide for her at home. Also, like, I get promising her on her deathbed and all that. Trust me, like, it's a shitty thing not to be able to follow through. You probably feel bad about not being able to follow through with that. But also at the same time, I think your wife did a disservice to her daughter by not planning for her future, except for her being there. I would think like, hey, one day I won't be here. I should plan what type of group home will best be fit for my child. These people no one will take better care of your child than a mother, right? No one can. So I would want my child to be in the best facility with the better equipment for her care. What did she expect you to do? I don't understand. You know, like just to watch and take care of her and be there for her. Like it's hard. Like I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't want someone else to do it. As long as you go check in on her, make sure she's okay, and don't just leave her in the gutter and like never see her again. That's hard.